So thank you so much, Polly, for joining us and to talk part of the Conscious Business Network.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk a little bit about your work on Ecocide and how that's going to relate exactly to business. Would you like to start and just explain a little bit about Ecocide law?
Yeah. Ecocide law, this is the criminalisation of mass damage and destruction, but also is about creating a legal duty of care for the earth. And this has huge implications for business. I think what's really interesting is that, yesterday we were talking about this when I spoke at your fantastic cafe, and how this has huge implications for actually changing something that is the exception at the moment into the norm. So what you're doing with your place is that you're really bringing about a business that's born of conscious intent, and what's underpinning it is intrinsic values. So you're really caring about the sourcing of your food, about the kind of food and about the way it's presented, and about how it's bringing community together as well. You're not doing it just for profit. So you're putting the health and well-being of people and planet first. And actually that's what Ecocide law is all about. It's about the sacredness of life itself and the interconnectedness of life. And when we close the door to mass damage and destruction, we actually then have to ask a fundamental question in law, in business. It's a question that's then asked in the boardroom of, if we go ahead and we do that, say, unconventional oil extraction, Arctic drilling, deforestation, is this going to cause significant harm? Is this going to cause an ecocide? And if it is, we can't go there. And what that does is it triggers the innovation in the other direction. And that has huge implications rippling down at all levels, not just in the boardrooms of transnational corporations, but actually becomes a new normative as to how we engage with business as a whole. Because in fact what we start doing is we start making Earth our business, the whole wider Earth community, and how we engage with society, how we engage with our land, what we choose to put on it. Is it going to cause harm? Is it not? If so, we can't go there. And it becomes a far more conscious, mindful, intent way of engaging with life itself, in fact. It puts in place at the very top end one key overriding principle of first do no harm. And that can apply to all sectors of society, business, politics, governance of the whole world, in fact.
I really like that story you said yesterday of the CEO who wanted to implement something that was more conscious, but he knew it wouldn't be tenable because of his shareholders. And just maybe you want to just tell that story again and how Ecocide would enable that.
Yeah, it was really interesting. This guy, he has a consortium of mining companies, coal, diamond, gold, and he met with me because he wanted to discuss how he needed a law of ecocide. At the moment, if he's to sit down with his directors and say, look, I want to use laser technology instead of going in there and doing mining business as usual, because the mining as usual it's hugely polluting. We have to use lots of chemicals. It's hugely destructive because we destroy vast tracts of land and sides of mountains. It displaces communities. It pollutes their water, their soils. But if we were to use laser technology, then none of that would happen. But of course, to do that would completely destroy his profit margin, his bottom line. And if that happened, then he loses his ability to be competitive and pitch for the government tenders and the permits to go ahead with his mining operations. So his board would just vote him out overnight. So ironically, here's a man in the mining industry wanting to do something that's non-harmful, but he can't do it, because it is the law for CEO and his directors to put the interests of the shareholders first, and that's to put profit first. So with Ecocide law, what it does is it creates a level playing field right across the board, which means that everyone then has to start playing by a new set of rules. And that overriding new rule is first do no harm. If this is going to cause or contribute to Ecocide, we can't go there because we won't get the funding, the governments won't give us the permits, the shareholders would find it untenable, and actually instead of us being competitive, we become such a high-risk business, no one will touch us. So it fundamentally flips that normative overnight. And that is hugely, hugely powerful, especially when you're looking at transnational corporations, because then they're safe. they have the support of law behind them to step into the innovation the other direction. And this guy, this mining CEO, he knew that without the support of law on his side, he could not do what he actually wanted to do. And he was really entrepreneurial. He knew what would allow him to continue with mining without it being destructive. But he can't get there just now unless the support of law is in place, and it's in place right across the world, so that everyone is playing by that new set of rules.
It's really amazing when you think about it, how just this one law against ecocide can so just change the whole paradigm of the way that we do business.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really amazing.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And you know, when I first proposed this, I really hadn't grasped just how enormous the implications are for this. But I think this sometimes, we're shown this in history. We see this when we get to a point where we say enough, no more. And everyone says, you can't stop. You can't stop doing what we're doing because it's such a normative. You know, this is what happened when people stood up and started to say we have to abolish slavery. And people say, you're mad, you're not, this is impossible, you can't do that. You know, and I have a friend, he has an impossibility list. You know, if ever he hears of something and he thinks, that's ridiculous, that's mad, you know, it's impossible, then he puts this on his list and he goes out to challenge it. And he says it's so satisfying because actually there is always a better way. And sometimes we just have to put our hearts and our minds to it, and we can work it out, we can always find a better way forward. And that's really exciting because that's what changes the world, you know. And it changed things. We abolished slavery, you know. We ended up, we criminalized it. We criminalized genocide. We criminalized apartheid. We made it an international crime. You know, many people never thought that would come to an end. That would be impossible because it was such a normative. And just as we did it with genocide and apartheid, here we are, we're getting to a point we're going to do it with ecocide as well.
And I guess in a way the law is just going to help us really get back to the root of what business is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
When you were talking a lot about the real root of law, and lawyers as the preservers of justice.
Yeah.
And I mean, I see business very much as a solution provider.
Yeah.
And we just have to just change our paradigm to see the solutions have to be for the good of all instead of the good of just one person or just one group.
Yeah, and this is really interesting because also you're looking through the lens of conscious business decision making. And well, tell me, what do you mean when you say conscious business? Because this is a phrase I really like and you use it a lot. What is conscious business?
For me, it's definitely about providing a solution to a problem that's going to be for the good of the whole. It's going to be coming from this viewpoint of stewardship of the land. But definitely that business side of the equation, it's making a solution which is sustainable, which is creating value for the community. Right now we see the value just as monetary, but I think this is where we got it wrong. You know, we're not valuing the negative externalities, they call them in economics, which is a clinical way of terming nature.
Yeah. And it's really intriguing to me because the word economy actually comes from oikos, which is Greek for home, and nomos, and that's management. So this is about household management. It's not about money. It's not about profit making. It's about how we manage our home, our literally our home, our land, our earth. And when we start seeing it through the lens of, okay, how do we choose to manage this world? You know, what do we do, this living entity, this living being, this earth? Do we just asset strip it? Because that's actually what economics is doing at the moment, is just asset stripping. You know, we go in there, we extract fossil fuel, we're just stripping it of its natural resources. Or do we put back in, you know, and then harvest that which comes from it, which is it's a creative endeavour rather than it's constructive, it's not destructive. And permaculture is very much, you know, a good example of it. The land that we're here sitting on today, this is about putting back into the land and then harvesting the fruits from that. It's not about extracting from it. So this whole idea of economics, oikos nomos, you know, how we manage our home, our household management, well, that's a conscious decision-making process. And that's something that actually also I think women in particular have a natural affinity with, because often we are managing our homes, our households and what have you. And we know that when we have children growing up, they're not property, you know, they're not commodities. And that we're not owners of children, we're actually guardians of their well-being. And it's applying those guardianship principles to how we manage earth, our land, our businesses, And business is just an extension of how we choose to engage with the world. You know, if I choose to make Earth my business, then what are the values that shape that? And for me, this is about the sanctity of life, the sacredness of life. This is about intrinsic values, the interconnectedness of life, the love of life. And when it's based on that, then causing harm and causing destruction, it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
I can't compute it.
It's psychosis almost.
Yes.
Neurosis.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because a lot of people, we kind of talk about our humanity, and then when it comes to business, a lot of people feel like they can't really be their true self.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk a lot about intuition and heart-centered action. And for some reason, we feel like it's okay in business to not bring all of our heart to the equation. Yeah. And I think that's something that we really need to learn as people, how to really be living our values even in the workplace. It's not easy, definitely. You were talking with Pepe about the flowing river, but we do need to create some kind of support system for people to step into this new paradigm. And I think having the law behind it is obviously going to be something really powerful. Yeah. So people feel they're not alone. Yeah,
absolutely.
Doing that.
And this is about calling in the support of law, and law that's aligned with harmony rather than harm. I feel so much more reassured, because this is really about how, you know, we use the rule of law in society to create the governance that we want. So what is it that we're wanting here? And more what we're seeing is that there are so many people who are not happy, but they don't really understand why it is that they're not happy and not satisfied with the way their lives are running. You know, whether or not they're working for big companies and accountancy firms or whatever, or whether or not it's just on a day-to-day level, there's a certain sense of this isn't really working. And you know, I mean, I know it when I step into somewhere like your cafe. It's a community. And I'm seeing people around, even people that I wasn't speaking to yesterday. I kind of just had this sense of people who were really engaging with life in a far more conscious sense of purpose, you know, and treading lightly on this land, and that it mattered to them, and that they were coming to eat in your place because actually they were meeting like-minded people. They were being nourished, not just at a physical level, but also at a mental and a spiritual level, you know, and that there's an alignment then when that happens. It leaves you feeling happier, you know, more centered, more aligned with your purpose in life, or certainly with others who are in that space, and feeling that, you know, that brings its own support. And this is hugely important. These places are, you know, like satellites of bastions of you know, where magic can happen. I know this because we have our own place back where I live in the Cotswolds, Star and East Cafe, and you know, magic meetings happen there. And a lot of people call it their second office, their second base. So a lot of, you know, business home is going on there, but it's business that's really enjoyable as well, and it's actually where business meets play, meets enjoyment, and how often we forget that, you know, the most important conversations happen in the margins. They happen in, you know, in the cafes. Often I hold a lot of meetings in cafes over food.
Breaking the bread.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel a lot of my generation, it's this idea of purpose you were just talking about. You know, it's so beautiful and exciting to live your life with the sense of meaning. It's such a natural high, as you said. You know, magic is happening, and life is just so wonderful in that state. I look around at my generation, and I feel a lot of people have lost that sense of purpose. And in a sense, that we've lost that chain of the wisdom of the older generations really communicating to the youth how to live their life, how to really discover their purpose, how to live with aliveness. And instead, a lot of people just kind of falling into this routine and then just numbing the feelings, and because they're obviously so natural within ourselves, this desire to live. I think that's really a problem that I haven't quite figured out how to tackle yet, but it's something that I really engage with, and I wonder, maybe you have any thoughts on how to communicate to the youth in a new language that they will understand such an old truth in a new way, I guess.
You know, I think there are many different routes to this, but it takes courage. You know, courage is a really interesting word. Courage, it comes from the heart, the age of the heart. And it takes courage as well to step off the treadmill. The easiest thing in the world is just to remain in the what is. even if it feels vaguely dissatisfying, and even if you get a sense of that over there looks so much more interesting, but somehow so many people just get trapped in a pattern of, well, you know, I got to pay for my rent, I got to pay for my overheads, I got to just stick with this job, and you know, eventually maybe. But there is this thing that, you know, if you just keep on there, you're never going to get off that. It's kind of like a rat wheel, and you know, we are given windows of opportunity in life, and these critical choice points, if you like, where we have the opportunity to step off and do something completely different instead. And I know, I mean, I did it, and I thought I was just taking a year out. You know, give yourself a year out and see what happens. Yeah. You'll probably never ever return to what you started with. But hey, that's fine, because all those beautiful skills that you've learned now can be put to good use elsewhere. And it's a really exciting thing to do, to give yourself space, time out to explore a different way of being, and really make a conscious decision to engage with life in a different way and see where that takes you.
Yeah. I guess something that has really helped me in my journey is also just seeing the challenges that come up through making these kind of changes in your life as really the juice of what takes you to new levels of connection.
Yeah.
And that connection always feels so great.
Yeah.
You might have moments where you're just a little bit stuck or a little bit frustrated or lonely or whatever. Yeah. But every time you break through one of those stages, you're always just reborn in a sense. Just a whole new pool of energy to put to good use. I like to dream of, you know, what would happen if every single person was just living their life in this way. The amount of energy that we would have, human energy, would just
be phenomenal.
More beautiful world. Our hearts know it's possible.
Absolutely. And that whole thing of actually, I mean, it's very nourishing to meet other people who are in that space. And you know, it's like we're magnets, because we start to attract like-minded people in, and suddenly you find that actually it's almost like you're getting charged up by hearing the stories of others who have really had the courage to step off and follow their hearts and do what they want to engage with in life. And this is really exciting, because in a way what we're doing is we're kind of supercharging each other to go on and go forward, and also, you know, it's that pioneering spirit to be able to turn around and say, hey, look, you know, she could do it, I can do it. It took me to see another lawyer, female lawyer, actually doing law, for me to be able to say, okay, I can do law too, to go down that route. And then it took a moment to say, actually, now I choose to step off this and find a better way to create those new laws that are required. So, you know, just as what you're doing will encourage others to do the same as well elsewhere. We'll find it'll just start popping up and up and up. It's kind of like, you know,
like an ecosystem.
Yeah.
Building the shrubs
magic
and
mushrooms.
bushes.
You know? I mean, they are magic, because it is like magic. You know, people start popping up, you know, and communities start popping up around the place, and you begin to go, wow, you know, there's lots of different things happening, and you tap into this invisible rooted network, and you know, it's great, and that's exciting, and it's so exciting for different people as well. You know, I met a couple of lawyers yesterday who were explaining to me at your cafe that they were so excited to hear what I was doing, and now it had given them faith in why they had chosen to go into law in the first place. And one of them had actually left law, and she says, now I want to do something constructive with lawyers. I want them to see that actually there's a better way, that actually you can be a lawyer and be happy. Which is a big one. There's not a lot of lawyers that are out there happy. Same with accountants, same with, you know, anyone who's working in a kind of big system that's kind of closing in and in and in. There has to be a better way. And it's not to say that we get rid of these ways altogether, but it's actually about saying, okay, we can actually change the pathway, and it will take us to a completely different place. For a happier place.
I love the model of nature, you know, just like mirroring the natural intelligence and wisdom that's in nature, and why can't business reflect the principles of nature? And here we are at Permaculture, which, you know, I love using the wisdom of permaculture in a business context, because the values are just, they make so much sense for us. So I hope that, you know, all the work that we are doing in each sector, you know, whether it be law, as you said, food, permaculture, it's creating this new forest, food forest.
And I think one of the most important businesses out there are cafes. No, seriously, I mean this, because this is really permaculture principles, you know, valuing the marginal. When I was in Norway a few years ago, I was the honorary Arnie Ness professor at the university, and I had lots and lots of meetings. I was meeting lots of people, and rather than going to their office, I'd say, why don't you take me to your favourite cafe? So I got to see all these amazing cafes in Norway, and ended up nearly bankrupt because coffee and herbal tea costs a lot of money in that country. But it was really, really good because people then no longer have the barriers to conversation. Because if you're in an office and it's really anonymous, then conversation tends to remain really official and closed off, and it's in a box. But when you're in a cafe, people let down their barriers so much more easily, and something flows in a far better way. And there were certain cafes in Norway, in Oslo in particular, that I really, really loved, that were, really honouring organic and permaculture and biodynamic principles, or Buddhist. There was a Buddhist cafe, and these were really great places because there was a huge community of people who were using them. And I'd find time and time again I was being taken to the same cafes, and I was beginning to recognise that there was a really great community that I was tapping into. And this was, all in the margins, but actually by the end of my time there, after 3 months, this was my mainstay, and all these people who went to these kind of cafes had become my friends. And that was really, really exciting, because I tapped into this whole kind of wider network of people who really cared about the planet. And they really cared about the things I care about as well. And they are my friends, of course, and they are the people who are helping change the world. And they were all doing really dynamic stuff, just as it is here.
It's amazing when you share these values. It's just, the brotherhood and sisterhood. It's just automatic, just...
It attracts in.
It's the same resonance, I guess, of the heart. Just family, instant, instant family.
And it's really good fun because also it's not an exclusive club. It's about saying, we're open. Come join us. Come here. We're singing a new song. If you like it, come join. Come be part of this. It's really
call to adventure.
Yeah, it is a call to adventure. It really is. And that's the beauty of it as well. Not knowing what next year is going to bring either. I could still be stuck in a courtroom, or I could be here.
Sounds like a good choice.
Talking about ecocide law and engaging with people who are engaging with business with conscious intent.
Thank you so much, Polly, for joining us. I'm really happy to be able to just bring this message of ecocide to a wider audience. I know it's something, or I feel it's something that really the more people support, not just would it be a very, very good thing, but it's just going to have such a ripple effect on the future for all of us. So I really hope that some awareness will be raised by your visit here, and Malta will start to support this cause.
Well, thank you for nourishing my belly as well as my heart and my soul. Thanks to you.